Born and died, saved by love, count my blessing from above.
And good evening, or good afternoon, or good morning, depending upon where you are around the world. I am Marcus Holmes, the love activist and the founder of the Love and Stuff community, bringing you another great video cast this evening with a few guests that are going to join me. So we're on a little later than we normally are. I hope that you will take a moment, whether you are watching us live from the Love and Stuff community page, the Marcus R. Holmes page, or Sports Talk with Kamau and Felix here live on Facebook, or whether you're watching us from Restream via YouTube events or Twitch TV. Click share, tag 5 of your closest friends or connections, 5 of the more popular ones, to join us in the discussion as we delve into the minds of a few good men about fatherhood and manhood. So I hope that you ladies will be listening, and I have both gentlemen queued up in the background. I see them both, and they'll be joining me momentarily. While they're doing that, I want to invite you, if you haven't already, to click the notification bell at the top of your page. It will notify you when we are going live with great content such as what you will experience tonight. And you can go to the Love and Stuff community page, click follow, and then join our group inside of Love and Stuff. There is a wonderful self-care journey that's happening over the next 12 months. In this month of June, we're talking about gratefulness. And I am the author of the Gratefulness Journey Every Day. What are you doing in the next 30 days to transform your life? It is a simple practice and habit of being grateful, being more grateful, and it will transform your life. We started this journey in January with getting great sleep, in February with eating right, in March, marching into physical activity and physical fitness, in April, setting healthy boundaries, in May, treating yourself, and now we are in June, halfway through our 12 months, and we are talking all about the power of gratefulness. You want more of that content, join us inside of Love and Stuff, and you can join the journey on a better you. If you're seeking to pursue a better you in 2022, you should go inside of Love and Stuff by going under the groups tab and then clicking to join inside of Love and Stuff. Well, tonight I'm excited to have 2 of the gentlemen that I invited to come and to join us. Both of them are outstanding men in the Metro Detroit community in their own right and regard. And so you're going to learn some interesting information about them. I wanted to all month long have a focus on fathers, because we hear so much in media and around about the absence of fathers and the absence of men. And here are 2 good Black men. Now, they may not be single ladies. I don't know. You'll find that out if you go into their inbox. I'm not shooting the arrow for Cupid tonight. But what I will tell you is that they're good brothers. And I wanted to delve into their mind to give you a preview about what's in the mind of Black men, what's on the mind of fathers in this day and time. And I think we'll have an opportunity to talk with them both. So I'm going to bring them both on, both Rick Cranford and Roger Williams. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Marcus.
I'm so excited to have both of you. I am going to start with you, Rick Cranford, who is also Pastor Cranford, but and building a thriving ministry and mentoring a lot of young men. So I wanted to have you on because I wanted to delve into your mind and learn a little bit more about you. And I know the ladies are going to see these pictures of these gentlemen and they're going to want to know, are you single? Are you single? So we talk in the Love and Stuff community that single means that you are not exclusively single. Single means you're exclusively single. So you don't have to answer that question right now, but I trust that people will come to your inbox and ask you. So at some point they may ask you that question, but I want to delve into questions with you both tonight. And Roger Williams, thank you again for joining us. Roger is a human resources professional and has a background in the social sciences. So I'm going to be trying to pick into his mind. And both of them are men who have both been married and both are fathers. So I want to delve into some of the questions that I wanted to ask brothers to get into your mind. So I want to ask you first, what's the toughest lesson that you've learned to date about being a man? What's the toughest lesson that you had to learn?
Well, I guess I'll go first.
Yes, please, sir.
Me being only child all of my life, my sister is 16 years younger than I,
Okay.
and I was basically raised as an only child.
Mm,
And personally, the toughest lesson that I had to learn is learning how to share, learning how to provide, because I didn't realize I was spoiled, but time, revealed the fact that I was spoiled. And, being a provider when you didn't really have to look out for anybody but yourself, that was a
mhm,
hard lesson for me.
mhm. And I
So,
want to delve into that because you're saying that you didn't know, and tip your camera just so that the people that are already saying, oh, looking and gawking, I understand. I want them to see the full view. There you go. You didn't know that you were spoiled. So when did you gain the insight being raised as an only child, even though you have a younger sister? And tell us a little bit, because your dad was how, tell us a little bit about your mom and dad. How did you get this spoiled?
you know what? I don't know. I think that was the problem. I did not know that I was spoiled
Hmm.
until, life came and things happened, and I was going through changes on the inside, and I would hear people tell me that I was spoiled, but I didn't necessarily believe it because I was trying to figure out, well, when and how and, who spoiled me because my parents were very strict on me.
Hmm.
And so I didn't really feel like I was strong. I was spoiled, but through life circumstances and the way that I handled stuff and listening to other people, I found out that I was. And, it became very problematic because, being the only child, you're not used to sharing.
Hmm.
You're not used to being around people. I was kind of socially awkward
Hmm.
because my mother was very strict on me. My mother and my father, to go back to what you said, my
Hmm.
mother and father got divorced. They divorced when I was 3,
Okay.
and my mother remarried, and we were in an apartment, and I was her only child
Hmm.
for 16 years, and so she was very strict on me. And
Hmm.
so I was by myself most of the time, which made me secluded.
Hmm.
um and so I just wasn't used to being around people. And so when I became an adult, to branch out and to stretch out my own wings and meet people and develop relationships, I was slightly dysfunctional.
Got it. And I
So
want to go back because I don't think I've known, let me make a disclaimer. I've known Pastor Cranford for a number of years. I know Roger for a number of years, but I don't think I ever heard the story about um, your parents separating when you were so young. And so I want to delve into what was it like with your stepfather? What was that relationship like? How did that maybe lend into this only child? Because your mother treated you like the only child, but was strict. How did your stepfather factor into that?
he was very nice, but us as children, because he was not my real father, there's always basically a problem with anything,
Hmm.
stepmothers, stepfathers. He was as nice as a stepfather could be. He had 3 sons of his own from a previous marriage, and it was in our household, it was that I was my mom's child.
Got it.
And
And were
it
those
was
other sons living in the home too? Was it a blended household?
No, no,
No.
not at all. Their mother was still living, and they were with their mom.
Got it.
And
Got
so, he was basically in the house, and he was the provider. But if for some reason they had, well, that's your son, I'm here to help you with your son type
Got it.
thing going.
So it was not the relationship, if I'm understanding, where he was like the father, but he was the provider.
Right, exactly.
Got it.
Exactly.
And if I understand, as we go through your story, you went into the service, right, at some point, right?
I did. I went into the military. Well, what happened was what had happened was I was dating a young lady, and she was having some problems with her family, and we end up making a baby.
Okay.
We end up having a
And
baby.
how old were you when you were making a baby?
17,
Okay.
17.
All
She
right.
was she was older than I. She was out of high school, and so it was one of those flexing things. She by the time when I met her, I think I met her at 16. She was a little bit older than me, and she was out of high school. She had a job, she had a car, she had a credit card, and she wooed me, and things happened.
Mhm, mhm,
And I overheard my mom saying one day that she said, if he makes a baby, he's going to have to get out of my house. And
mhm,
so when we found out that we had a baby coming,
mhm.
I automatically enlisted in the Navy. And
Got
so,
it.
long story short,
That was your way of escaping the situation? Is that what you were thinking? Why did you go to the Navy?
escaping the wrath of my mother,
The wrath of your mother. Got it.
escaping the wrath of my mother, the humiliation of being having a baby out of wedlock, and then trying to be a provider.
Got it. Got it. Interesting because, Roger has been a stepfather. And so interesting, and we'll have to delve in that part of the dynamic right before I go to Roger. I want to, Ricky, while I'm going to Roger, I want you to think about whether or not that dysfunction, your words, not mine, that you described, did you take that into the service and what happened? Think on that. I'm going to come back to it. Roger, that same question to you, I want to know what's the lesson about being a man, the maybe the most important one or the toughest one?
Thanks for having me again, Mark, on
Absolutely.
the show. Probably the toughest lesson that I had was learning how to be the authentic me. That was my toughest lesson.
Okay.
Like your guest, my birth order, I was the oldest.
Mm,
So everything I did was scrutinized, of course, and being the first to go to college and, you get those accolades, being the responsible one.
mm-hmm,
And sometimes you take on a persona that you can't do things wrong or you can't make mistakes.
mm-hmm,
And in life, that's not very fair to set yourself up. So I had to learn that I made a whole lot of mistakes, and many, as an adult growing up and being in a blended family myself,
mm-hmm,
um, learning with my family after my parents passed away, trying to deal with some of the old healing wounds of from childhood,
mm-hmm,
that came out of the relationship I had with my siblings.
mm-hmm,
But probably being my authentic self has been the hardest journey,
mm-hmm,
and learning that I'm not Superman. As I
mm-hmm,
once told my brothers, rather we buried my mom. I'm not
mm-hmm,
Superman, I'm just a
mm-hmm,
man.
mm-hmm.
So
I think those are great lessons and tough lessons. I want to ask you something. I did provide these gentlemen the questions that I wanted them to answer, but I'm going off script here because you're leading me down an interesting path. One of the questions I was going to ask you is, what lessons have you taught your children? I want to know, what lessons did your fathers teach you, and what lessons did your stepfathers teach you? And then you can tell me if you taught any of those lessons to your children.
Well, my father wasn't in the house, and
Okay.
so I didn't have a whole lot of dealings with him. My
Hmm.
stepfather allowed my mother to raise me,
Okay.
and so I didn't really have a big influence of a father.
Okay. And so your father was in the same state, another state. What did you
He
were
was
you
in
ever?
Detroit. He was in Detroit. He ended up marrying again and having two other kids. So he had his own family doing his own thing.
What were your thoughts about that at that time? What were your thoughts, and maybe what are your thoughts about that today?
Um, I understand now as an older man.
Hmm.
I didn't understand uh, early on. My mother never dogged my father. She never talked bad about him, and so I really didn't have an opinion. He just wasn't there, and you can't really miss anything that you never had.
Got it.
And so, I didn't miss him because I really didn't know him to be there. And my mother never badmouthed him. And so he was just a dad doing a different thing. And so I didn't know it. I didn't know a dad to be a dad.
Got it. And once you became a dad, did you then look back and say, oh, these were the things that I should have experienced? What were your thoughts when you became a dad? I know you became a dad relatively young, so you probably weren't thinking about that intentional of thought, but what were you thinking once you started becoming a dad and say, I need to do these things as a dad? Did it make you look back and say, oh, that's what I should have gotten, or what are your thoughts?
No, I didn't really look back. I was just trying to figure it all out.
Okay.
Figure it all out. Well, what should I be doing and how does this go? So I was so preoccupied with trying to figure it out. I didn't really, go through any changes about the past.
Got it. And before I go to Roger, I want to ask you, circle back to the stepfather. Any lesson that he taught you? Any lesson that stands out that you learned from him? Because a lot of times, Ricky and Roger, at least for me, some of the best lessons I learned from my dad, even though my dad is, hard to believe, more a talker than me, if you can imagine that. But my dad, some of the best lessons I learned were watching what he did for me. So I'm wondering, is there any lesson that you learned from your stepdad, or any lesson that he told you? Ricky, I was asking you, and then I'm gonna go to Roger.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But can you repeat that again?
Sure. Did your stepdad show you anything that was a lesson for you, or tell you anything that was a lesson for you that sticks out for you? I know you said your mom did the raising, but did he ever say, a man that doesn't work doesn't eat? I mean, did he ever say anything that is something that you use today?
Actually, no. Actually, no. He was just there, and he was my mom's husband, and he was a good provider. I saw him go to work every day. He worked a lot.
Do you think that impacted your work ethic? Because you are, I don't know if I'm going to say you're a hard worker. Look at me. I don't know if I'm going to say you're a hard worker, but you do have a work ethic that I admire. You are a hustler, ladies. If you out here, I'm shopping you like I'm getting a commission. He is a hustler, and he used to be, for at least for me, the custom designer for my mom's hats, and so did a fashion show for the church. I just think so much of your gifting. I always saw you and admired that part of you. You're a hustler. You will make it happen. So I'm wondering, was that impacted in any way by seeing your dad go to work every day?
Probably, yeah. And the fact that I like money, I enjoy money. I like a certain lifestyle, and I understand. My grandmother always told me, if you work hard, you can have whatever you want.
Okay.
And so I did learn that from watching and listening.
Okay. And Roger, just before you respond to the same question, I want to just check in and let everybody know I'm talking to Rick Cranford, who is an emerging and growing pastor, I will say, and mentor in our Metro Detroit area, and Roger Williams, who is a certified human resources professional extraordinaire. Both of them are sharing what's in the mind of men and fathers today, and I appreciate their presence. Thank you, Valencia Etner and Vicki Johnson Williams, Watts Deshawn, Gloria Davis, and Travis. I hope you all will click share Felix Holmes, click share and tag 5 of your closest friends or connections, 5 of the more popular ones, to join us as we delve inside the minds of these two men. Ladies, you may learn some, and gentlemen, some information about how the mind of a Black man works. Roger, I was going to ask in my questions, right, the lessons that you taught your children, but I'm asking, what's the lessons that you learned from your father or father figures that stand out to you?
We didn't. My mom and dad separated when I was about 10, so we didn't have a close relationship like I have with my son now. But I did learn indirectly how his way of dealing with life was. He was very easygoing. Almost to a fault sometimes. Very easygoing. Very seldom saw him very irate, angry. I didn't see him like that. He was always had a joke, always laughing. Even when him and mom would go at it, it was funny, but he always kept it lighthearted, a lot of times. But my biggest lessons came from my uncle, who was a surrogate father as I got older, he was a Muslim. So he kind of imparted a lot of things in me that carried over into my adulthood that I never forgot. But my dad and I, we had to learn that journey together as I got older before his passing to kind of develop that bond.
Interesting.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I learned indirectly how to take life very lightly, not to get all overwhelmed with it.
Yeah. Interesting fact. I think that you're telling us about your uncle that was a Muslim, and I think both of you may have in common having strict mothers or strict upbringing. I know, Roger, you had a mother that was very God-fearing. So does some of that...
She got saved. We all got saved.
Okay. Got it. And so some of that upbringing, taking to my next question, what are the lessons that you taught your children, your sons and daughters, and where did you get those lessons from? What are those lessons that you taught them that are important lessons?
Well, I always teach my children to stay humble, to listen to your elders, to have good work ethics, to get an education, and most of all, to love God.
And where did you get those lessons from? Was it from the school of hard knocks, or did someone teach you those lessons?
Oh, my mother, she was very strict on respecting your elders, loving God. My grandparents kept me, between my mother and my grandparents, they kept me in church, watching my grandfather and my grandmothers. And my mother was a housewife, and watching my stepfather and my father from a distant work, I realized that was the way of life. And so, and to stay humble from going to church and realize that God exalts the humble.
Great lessons. Roger, what about you? What lessons did you teach? Are you teaching your children, and where did those lessons come from?
One of the things I'm teaching Alan now, he's 21, is something I learned late, is as an African-American male and a young man, he has to learn how to, instead of reacting, have a response to things. Because a lot of times, I've seen in my own life and life of my friends, we have a tendency to react when confronted with things outside of our control, and it sometimes can be detrimental, as you can imagine. So I try to teach him not to go off, not to have an emotional, moment with someone, whether you're wrong or not, but to take a moment, refocus, and have a response for that. I can't be with him all the time to kind of coaching. I do pray for him, and I do take him to church with me as much as possible, so that he does get the exposure that I got, albeit a little later than I did when my mom would take us. But I try to teach him that, and I try to tell him that sometimes this life is not fair, but that doesn't mean you have to act uncharacteristic of the person and man that he could be. So it's still a work in progress with him.
And Roger, you have Alan, that's 21, and you also have stepdaughters. Tell us their names and ages.
I have Mia. Mia's 29. Shayna is 25.
Okay. And Ricky, what are your children's names and what are their ages?
Well, I have my youngest are twins. It's Ricky and Alexis. They're 29. All of my children are 2 years apart. So I have my twins that are 29. My middle child, I call my knee baby, Chantel. She just got married in November. She is 31, I think now. 31. She'll be 32 in December.
Okay.
And my oldest child, Crystal, she's 34.
Okay. All right. And so I want to hear a little bit about your relationship with your children. And I think I've heard some in that. Are there things that you wish you had done differently with them? Things you wish you had done differently with them?
Can I go out, Rick, if you don't mind? As you know, I was married once and blended family. That's how the girls came into my life. I wish I could have navigated early on being a stepfather, and I mean being more, how do I say it? more servant-like love towards them, even after the divorce. I could have done a better job. I wish I could have done a better job in terms of helping them understand that what happened with me and their mom, although it didn't work out, wasn't a reflection of our relationship. You know, so, but we recently had a meeting recently, which was awesome. So I think that we're getting there. You know,
Okay.
we are.
And Ricky, are there things that you wish you had done differently with your children?
I wish I would have spent a little after uh, I got a divorce. We kind of went our separate ways for a while. I wish I could have filled in some gaps there, and been with the children and helped them through different situations a little bit better dealing with the divorce.
And I will imagine, I mean, you were a 17-year-old dad. So when you came out of the service, what was your thoughts about, I know I asked you to think on the question earlier. You took that spoiledness, your words not mine, dysfunction, your words not mine, into the service. And how did the service confront that?
Oh, they were very strict on it. They helped me work through it.
Okay.
Definitely. It was definitely a good move for my maturity and to help me with my family.
Okay. So when you got out and you were a young dad, how was the relationship with your now the daughter is the oldest, right? Yes. So how was that relationship coming out of the service as a young dad?
Oh, it was good. It
Okay.
was good. Things didn't start dissolving until a couple of years later. And so
Okay.
everything was young and good, and we was trying to figure it out, and having some few hiccups there, here and there. But from the beginning, at the beginning, it was good.
Okay. All right. And I want to then use that as a segue. I'm talking to Rick Cranford and Roger Williams, getting into the mind of Black men and fathers. Click share and tag someone to join us. You may learn some things that might bless your own life. All right. So I want to ask you, is there a woman that you wish you had never hurt? And if so, what would you say to her?
Definitely my ex-wife.
Okay.
Definitely my ex-wife, and I would apologize to her. Well, I have
Okay.
apologized to her. We're pretty good friends
Okay.
now. She comes over whenever me and the kids have family day.
Okay.
She comes over and share Christmas and special occasions with us, and I've apologized several times, and so um, that she would be the one. And I would definitely say that, I was guilty in a lot of things. I never thought that the marriage was all one person's fault. And so, I mean, the breakup was never, I never blamed it all on her. And so I would definitely apologize, to her.
And Penny's a beautiful woman, so tell her I said hello. I haven't seen her in a long time, but I want to ask you, for someone who is in a marriage where they're unhappy, what would you have done differently if you thought that you could salvage that marriage? What would you have done differently?
Communicate. And, some of us have temper problems, anger issues.
Okay.
I hope I'm delivered now,
Okay.
but
You're working through it. You're
yeah,
overcoming holiness.
I'm working it. Yeah, I think it was a generational thing. My father was pretty angry.
Okay.
He had anger issues, and so I think it was a generational thing. And I would have definitely wish I could have controlled my temper and communicated better.
And I want to delve in that just a little bit before I go to Roger. Angry about what?
I
Were
don't.
angry about the same things your dad were? Did you know why your dad was angry? Do you think it was the same things?
Well, no, I don't know exactly. It's just if you did something to get on my nerves, I would just spin off. I don't know if it was, rooted out of something. It was just, just something, I was just if you did something that I thought was unfair, I would just get angry. So I don't know if that really answers your question.
I think it does. And I want to delve though a little more. I think you're telling me that when you felt that there wasn't injustice or something that wasn't fair, it's what drove that anger.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're not sure where that came from.
No, the bloodline.
And when you say the bloodline, do you say from your dad, your mom, your stepdad? Where? Well, that
My,
wouldn't be blood,
my
but
dad.
your
My
dad.
dad.
And do
Yes.
you know again what he was angry about?
Well, my grandmother always told me this story about my dad. They were a part of Bethesda Church of God in Christ,
Mm-hmm.
and they had a pie eating contest,
Mm-hmm.
and he ate the most pies there,
Mm-hmm.
and and for a prize they gave him a bottle of castor oil. And she said, I was never able to get him to go to church again. He hated church. He hated church people. He hated everything. And so, maybe that's what,
He
maybe
had
that's what,
church hurt. Yeah, he
yeah,
has some hurt.
he had church hurt before, it became a popular thing.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So probably some of that anger and being able to control that anger uh, was something you would tell Black men, especially, to be careful with and work through.
Definitely. It kills everything.
What would you say to Black women, before I go to Roger, who might be with an angry man and are triggering him every day? Because if you're angry and you're triggered by injustices and you deal with them every day and work and in the real world, and then you come home, what would you say to a Black woman who might be married to and laying next to an angry man? How should she handle that?
Soft answer, turn it away wrath. Uh, be patient, be prayerful, have a soft response. Try to let love conquer. And if none of that work, get out the house.
Okay. All right. Roger, I want to ask you that same question. Both of you, of course, are divorced. And I want people to understand divorce means that two people decided that this doesn't work for us. It doesn't mean that your life doesn't get to start over, restart, be positive, successful again. And I know some people say, well, I'm hearing for people that are divorced. I think some of the most sage advice comes from people who lived it versus people who aren't authentic with it. So I appreciate you for being, both of you, for being open and transparent. So Roger, I want to ask you that same question. Is there a woman that you hurt, and what would you say to her?
I thought about that, and not really. I mean, they may have been upset that the relationships didn't work out, but that was because, for one reason or another, maybe we just weren't compatible. The situation with my marriage, so that doesn't apply there. So,
so I want to ask the question again, because maybe I didn't ask you right. Not that your answer is wrong. I just want to make sure I ask you the same question that I asked Rick, which is there a woman that you wish you had never hurt?
I wish I had never hurt? All of them. I mean, I wish I had, one way or another, hadn't disappointed, for whatever reason, anyone I've dated.
Okay. And what would you say to any of them? I don't want to give the impression that you go around hurting women.
No, not at all. Not at all. That's why I can't really relate. That's why I can't.
You're saying that there are women, multiple, that you have hurt. What would you say?
I would say, and maybe I need to clarify that. You're right. I don't mean it like that. What I mean is, I can't think of anyone that it was always mutual. My relationships ended, with the exception of my marriage, ended without a lot of conflict and drama. Friends to this day, in many cases. So, it's hard to really answer that question. So
you never hurt a woman, is what you're saying?
I mean, disappointed, yeah, but like
never hurt.
Right.
Okay. I wanted to make sure. Okay. What would you tell your 25-year-old self, being who you are today? Roger, how old are you? May we ask that? I'm sure we can.
Last Monday the 6th, I turned 57.
Yes, you and Rick sent those likes and shares and all of those comments on your birthday up through the roof. That's why I was trying to get you all on. I got more inboxes. I said, no, I'm not their agent, but I will charge you a fee to introduce you. And so, Rick, how old are you?
55.
55. So 30 or so years ago, right? You guys were 25. And what was 25 like for the two of you?
Well, for me, it was I was in grad school,
Mm-hmm.
finishing up grad school. Um, very career focused, serious. Um, I was in the state of North Carolina in school at the time. Um,
Were you single?
oh yeah, I was single.
Were you
So
single?
I was single. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
yeah, single. Yeah.
Now, when you do this to the side, does that mean kind of, sort of, not really?
Well, I was,
At 25,
at
you
25.
were
At that time, I was single. No, I was single.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
And
what would I tell my 25-year-old self?
yeah.
Enjoy the people that surround you. Don't take everything so serious. Um, enjoy the journey as much as you're trying to get to the goal. Is what I would tell myself.
Mm-hmm. So you felt like you were driven by career, and there were things that you missed out on.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. And Rick, what about you? What were you doing when you were 25? What were you doing?
25, I was married, fresh out of the military, working with 2 children and 2 on the way. Head spinning because I was trying to figure it all out, trying to enjoy life and be the provider that I was supposed to be, being young and trying to be mature at the same time. Uh, just trying to figure life out.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot going on early.
Mm-hmm. And what now, being where you are now, would you tell that 25-year-old Rick? What would you tell Rick at now?
To definitely learn from your past mistakes, to be self-sufficient, and to be confident in what you know.
Mm-hmm. 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 What do you understand about men and women?
I'll let Roger go first.
What do I understand about men and women?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I guess we want the same thing, but with social media and so many voices out there coming across, it's kind of hard to really understand what the same thing really is. I take for instance the situation that the slap heard around the world and how so many people were divided, particularly in the African American community, men versus women, as to the appropriateness of it, as to whose fault it was, as to how you defend your woman. Is that the way you do it? We're all trying to figure this thing out. Believe it or not, I think we're all trying to figure this whole thing out. That's where I think we are.
And what about you, Rick?
I think that. Can you ask me the question again?
I'm going to ask 2 questions because the first question I just asked, what do you understand about men and women? But I got another question.
Okay. I understand that women can be more emotional than men. I understand that they are much more communicators than men. And they like to spend money.
But that goes up your alley because you like to spend money too.
I do, but I try to be very wise about it. I try to save as much as I spend.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So the next question is, what do women misunderstand about men? What, from your experience, what do they misunderstand about men?
That a lot of us are not good communicators. And that
you think they think we are and we're not?
I think that they think that we should be.
Got it.
Okay. I think that we're not as emotional and not as detailed as they are. And so, yeah, that would be mine.
And Roger, what do you think? What do women misunderstand about men?
I kind of disagree. I think one of the things they misunderstand, we have a lot of the needs that they have. We just don't articulate what those needs are in the language that they understand.
Mm.
You know, men need to be feel, validated like women need to want to be validated.
Mm-hmm.
Men like closeness too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's hard to kind of weed through all the issues that men have to get to that, but a lot of men do, particularly as they get older.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of emotional similarities as we get older that I think women tend to misread.
Mm-hmm. Vivian Morrison, Willie Rogers, Bilal Muhammad, Clarence B. Prepared Sanders have all joined us. Thank you for joining us. I'm talking to Rick Cranford and Roger Williams and getting into the mind of Black men and fathers. I want to stay right there, kind of, to ask, because Rick, you're a pastor. Roger, you're an HR professional, and I'm sure, and you know that it has a counselor hat to it. So when women are talking to you, as they may invariably do, about men, what are the kind of questions and issues that they might bring to you if they do? Not of course specific names, right? But what are the kind of issues that they might bring to you?
Well, as a pastor, they always want to know, what does a man want from a woman?
Mhm.
Um, what kind of wife should they be? What kind of man should they look for? Just different
And
questions about men.
how do you those are great questions, and how do you answer those questions? What does a man want from a woman? What does a man want from a woman? What would you
Well, I
say?
mean, it depends on the individual man.
Hmm.
I always send them to Proverbs 31, the
Hmm.
virtuous woman.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
I believe that my grandmother and my mother was they came very close to the Proverbs 31 woman.
Hmm.
And so I think that would be a great example that I always send them to.
Hmm. Hmm. And I'm sure, because most of the women would be God-fearing women, because there are brothers that aren't looking for the virtuous woman. Some brothers want companionship, great sex. They want to travel. They want a confidant. Um, so, Roger, I want to ask. I'm going to shift over to you to ask you the same question. What does a man want? The
Hmm.
ladies want to know.
Um, I guess in some cases to be understood again as a man, to be understood and not have to put on this persona a lot of times, and I think that's part of it. Validation is a big part. Um, yeah, I just think that's pretty much to be understood. And it
Hmm.
really does depend on the man, as Pastor Cranford said, to a large degree, because some men are varied in what they're looking for in women based
Hmm.
on their experiences. So, um, like you said, it. Some men want sex, some men want companionship, some men want a business partner.
Hmm.
A lot of times it just depends on the man, and what his aim and goals are, and how he sees himself.
Hmm. Hmm. I want to pivot here and ask a question that's not on script. Uh, from your travels and your conversations with women, what's the biggest thing that they make a mistake in doing when they're first meeting a man? What's the biggest mistake they make?
I think one of the biggest mistakes that they make is they marry them in their mind. You know,
Hmm.
they become a wife before they get licensed.
Hmm.
I know the Bible says that he that findeth the wife findeth a good thing and obtaineth favor from the Lord.
Hmm.
You can become a wife, just don't become his wife yet,
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
until he marries you.
Hmm. Hmm. And so, delving into that, what do they do? What are the behaviors or actions that they do that signals to you that they're becoming a wife without the license? What are they doing?
They assume the position. They take on the posture of a wife. Me being a single pastor, they invite themselves to the front row, put on the big hat, and be everything the first lady should be.
Now, I was going to ask that a little later as another question because I didn't have it on the list. And I'm going to ask both you and Roger, because Roger will tell you there aren't a whole lot of African American men in human resources. And it just happens that A lot of us are smart and pretty good looking. So we're going to get our share of women. But I used to work at a church where directing, my back is to the audience. But I'd always know if there were younger women on the front row because of the posture of the ministers in the pulpit. They would kind of become a little more stoic and less responsive until one of the mothers or women of the church might bring a lap scarf, because there was a time that a young lady came without what appeared to be any underwear, and she sat on the front row, and they put that. So I'm wondering, because you're both single, I will imagine that there are women that throw themselves at you. Is that a turn off, turn on, turn around? What would you say to women that are positioning themselves to be seen?
For me, you want me to answer that?
Both
Well, let me go back to your original question quick. That
Okay.
that Pastor Cranford was saying. One of the things women need to really understand: know your type. Know the type of guy that you are looking for and the ones that you're really attracted to.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the key. If you're not clear about what type of guy you're looking for, you're gonna make this. He may not be the match for you or the right one for. But in your head,
Mm-hmm.
you will dress this guy up as though he meets that type, and you got to be very clear about the type of man that you're looking for. All women have different taste in what they're looking for in a man. I'm not, we all have a prototype.
Mm-hmm.
But different taste in who they're looking for as a man. Know your type.
Mm-hmm.
And know what type of man you attract, because
Mm-hmm.
that tells you what vibes you're giving off.
Mm-hmm.
Right there.
Okay. I think
second,
both of those were two key takeaways that I want to make sure people hear. Don't assume the position. And when you first said that, I have to tell you we're in love and stuff. So I was like, oh Lord, he's going there. Don't assume the position of wife without the license. And know the kind of man that you want, because what you want, what you give off is what you attract. Mm-hmm. So I want to make sure I repeated those great points among the many that you've made so far.
So your second question, repeat your second question again, Marcus. I'm sorry.
So my second question is, I know that there are women that are after, I won't say after you. Pastor Cranford's a pastor. Women position themselves on the front row with a big hat, and hopefully they have panties on. Praise the Lord. Right? And Roger, you're in human resources, and somebody invariably comes to complain about their boss and want to put their head on your shoulder. Right? We've experienced that. Is that a turn off, a turn on, a turn around? What is that?
I wouldn't call it a turn off. It's just in HR, you got to be very professional about it. Me and you both know where that's led a lot of men in the city when they get in those situations. So I don't get turned off by it. I keep it in perspective. You take it as a compliment a lot of times, and outside of work rather, and then you just move on. I mean, I don't have any strong feelings either way.
Okay.
Well, I have a different view on that, because I could be a little jaded from my past.
Mm-hmm.
Aggressive women is not a turn on to me. I don't particularly care for it. I think that it's the aggression, all of that is overwhelming for me.
Okay. And just as a follow-up to you both, because you're a pastor and it is a profession, mm-hmm. Is there a woman that could come into your sphere of your profession and become someone that you're interested in, that you would date?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, Roger, you got the look of consternation.
It's just different in HR. I mean, I try to, because you got to be very careful with those relationships being in human resources. Mm-hmm. You just got to be very, because a lot of times that can be looked at by the organization as a conflict of interest, mm-hmm. That you're involved with someone that actually works in the organization, mm-hmm. That you're servicing. Mm-hmm. So I keep my guard up in that regard, because mm-hmm. I don't want to end up crossing the boundaries and compromising the integrity of the role, mm-hmm. As an HR professional in an organization. I wouldn't want to do that. So,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. And you all answered, I think, Rick, you answered the advice you give to women looking for a man, and you did to Roger. Is that the same looking for a man and looking for a husband? Would you give different advice to them?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm
Yes.
gonna say, don't look, don't look,
Don't look.
don't look.
So,
I think, go ahead.
what does that mean? What does that mean?
I think, I think when
a
women
woman
look,
sees you, Roger, and she says, "Dang, I want to meet him." Should she wait for you to make the first move?
she can. I mean, again, you can let it be known that you're interested, but I mean, actively, like some women are very, as Pastor Cranford said, very aggressive about letting men know, you know, I'm available. Da da da. And I think that might set you up for some disappointment sometimes. So, no, letting someone know you're interested is fine. It's just don't be aggressive with that as a woman. Don't be aggressive with it.
And do you think sometimes women are aggressive because they have to be in leadership roles and leading, and they think that the pickings are slim?
That's the perception.
Do
Yep,
you
that's
give
the
them some?
perception.
Do you give them some grace, Pastor Rick, because they might just be trying to shoot their shot because it ain't as many LeBrons in the gospel, and so they're trying to shoot their shot, and they don't mean to overstep the shot. Do you give them grace when they do that?
I do. I do. I think it's a way that you do it this acceptable.
Okay. All right. I want to delve into that from you both. So, how would you advise a woman to shoot her shot? Of course, this is going to be her shooting her shot at you. A woman sees you right now and she says, "Boy, that Pastor Rick, whoa, that Roger, ooh." How does she shoot their? How should she shoot her shot if she wanted to shoot a shot?
Am I going
Pastor,
first?
I'll let Pastor go. Go ahead.
Um, uh, I don't.
Both of y'all saying foul on the play. Foul.
I don't. Let me see. Maybe study me and see what I like, or you know, you know me. I'm into fashion. You know, have your stuff together, catch my attention by looks. You know,
Okay.
I'm into fashion. I'm into looks. I'm into smell. I'm into the way that you carry yourself. I'm into, I want you to be educated, well put together, well rounded, self sufficient. Don't look for me to make you happy. Already be happy, and I'll add to it. All of that.
Mm-hmm. And so those are the things that it sounds like she should bring to the table. But how does she shoot the shot?
Now, that I don't.
Okay. Okay.
I've never thought about that.
Yeah, because I think what you're describing is a well put together person. She shows up at your church, and how does she then shoot her shot? Or you're saying if all these things are together, it might catch your attention. She
Yeah,
doesn't have to. That is shooting her shot. Is that what you're
yeah.
saying?
I think
Gotcha.
that maybe come and maybe introduce yourself.
Okay.
That's yeah.
And how should she do it? Should she be like, "Praise the Lord, Reverend"? I mean, how should the woman introduce herself to a man that she has interest in?
Let me see. I don't know. Praise the Lord. I don't know. I'm a little lost.
Would praise the Lord put your mind in a worship mode, or would it put your mind in, this is a fine sister right in front of me saying praise the
But no,
Lord?
you know the church greetings, and so not necessarily praise the Lord don't necessarily mean praise the Lord.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's a greeting, and so yeah, and I think it's the spirit that you say it in.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So somehow she should articulate her greeting in a way that is assertive but not aggressive.
Yeah, the whole chemistry thing.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. Okay. All right. And Roger, what would you say? How should she shoot her shot?
I just speak. I'm not, just speak like you're talking to someone you're meeting and you want to get to know. I like to go out. I like to do different things. So I have varied interests. So just let it be known that, that you're interested. That's the best way I can put it.
But how does she let it be known? I'm just trying to figure it out. So, because I guess
walking, say hi. If you let me know that, yeah, I would, I would love to go out or get to know you. That's fine. I mean, that's very basic intentions, and so that to me would get my attention.
Okay.
You know,
So
yep.
Vicky Johnson is saying like a subtle approach as wanting a friendship is what they're saying. Thank you, Vicky. I'm trying to pour more out of them. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, it would have to be a friendship. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't want you to come in thinking, okay, we're going to go out and you're going to be my, Mr., husband. But it has to start off as some friends to see if there's any compatibility more than just visual attraction with a person. It really does have to be.
And I'm wondering, a great segue, if it is God-fearing, visually attractive, and compatible, what order do those go in? If those were three things that were important: godly, visually attractive, compatibility.
I always felt, and this has just been my Marcus, you already know this from my situation in my previous marriage. It's how you treat me. I mean, I want somebody that's saved. You do want somebody that has the same religious values and beliefs as you, but you can have that and have a person that doesn't value you as a man. It doesn't value you as a person. So it's how you treat me, how you entreat me, because I'm very loyal. As you know, I'm very loyal. Mm-hmm. So if I can see that we have a lot of common interests and that you value the friendship that we have, we'll see where it goes from there.
So compatibility would have to be broad to cover that. Would you say that compatibility would be more important than physical attraction and more important than...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Compatibility will outlast everything else. As you get older and things change and start to gray and start to fall and droop, the compatibility will always be the magnet that keeps a person rooted. And that includes your religious beliefs as well. Mm-hmm. That includes that. So you gotta operate in the same universe. You have to.
Got it. So it sounds like compatibility. What's next? Compatibility for you, beauty and then godliness, or godliness then beauty?
That's a good question. Godliness is really the top one. I mean, I wouldn't feel comfortable if you were a godly woman. It's going to be very difficult.
Okay.
If a woman has a lot of tendencies that, that would be very difficult for me.
Okay.
That would be difficult for me.
So it's godly, then compatibility, then beauty. Mm-hmm. Okay. Rick, what about you?
Well, let me see. To be honest, the older you get, it's not about the outer appearance so much. Mm-hmm. I don't think that I've quite reached that age where I do look at the outer appearance. The outer appearance catch me first. It is the first thing that attracts me. They always taught me you watch the way someone worships. If they worship the Lord good, then they'll be able to be a good relationship oriented person. And so compatibility, I would really want to put them all on the same level. But if I had to list them, worship would become first, then the visual, and then compatibility.
Okay, that's good. I got some growing to do there, fellas, because I think I call myself a sapiosexual, which means the intellect is what turns me on most. So I have to be compatible intellectually first. And then I'm like you, Ricky, then it has to be visually attractive to me, and then godly, because I think if I'm a soul winner, I can win your soul. But that might not be the best.
Yeah, but you guys are
the best way. But that's kind of where I am today. So what'd you say, Roger?
I was going to say, you guys are young, though. Pastor's 55, if I'm not mistaken. And Marcus, you're early 50s. I'm 57. Yeah. So, and I tell you, the older you get, I'm telling you, you do want somebody that looks attractive, but attractiveness is based on that person. Sometimes it's how a person cares, because with women, the way God make women is it's little things that make them attractive. It ain't the stuff in the 20s, because we don't have the bodies and all that stuff like the 20s. It's the little stuff that makes them attractive. How they dress, how they handle themselves when they're talking, when they're at play, how their sense of humor is, how they look at life, how they handle stress. It's those little things that matter, because those are the things, when all that other stuff is fading and graying, it's those things that you're going to be sitting and faced with every day. You know, because that's just how it goes. Now, because I'm older, I see that as for what it is. I mean, I'm just being honest. I mean, I want somebody that very affectionate, that loves to be held, that doesn't have hang-ups about being spontaneous, doing things that outside of the, you know, not something crazy, but, you know, life things. And that has to be more important, because that's the person you're going to be living with every day. The hair, the eyes, the weight, all that's going to change. Trust me, it's going to change. Yeah, and that's just the nature of us as people, how as human beings, how that happens. So, and I, you know, my marriage was pretty bad. So I value that over the other stuff. That's just me personally. I value that, because you got to make me feel loyal, and I mean, be loyal to me, because I'll be loyal to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're probably right. That's why I preface close mine with, you know, that's an area that I would have to grow in, because I'm not in my mind. If you don't trigger me intellectually, there could be no.
It's fine. Yep, and I got that.
But then the next thing is the chemistry. It is the physical for me. And in my 40s, that was a lot different. I think the physical was first. I don't know if I thought that, you know, life was fleeting, but physical meant a lot more to me then than I think it means to me now. But golly has always been one that I thought I could negotiate. Not someone necessarily who believes a different religion as much as somebody that just isn't spiritual at all. I thought, well, that is a person that can become compatible if they're open to growing.
And the challenge with that, and you're in my situation, my marriage again, is you may have a person that starts off with a strong spiritual grounding, have some trauma issues they're dealing with, and they just drift away. So what do you do at that point? Do you know, are you throwing in the white, you know, the white flag at that point, or are you saying, okay, I got to be able to negotiate this with prayer, patience, and all that stuff till that person gets back there? So you're right. You do have to understand people's walk sometimes goes that way, you know.
I got a few more questions before I let you guys go. So thank you for your patience, and thank those of you that are watching. I'm talking with Rick Cranford and Roger Williams. I'm getting inside of the mind of some Black men. We're talking this month to Black men and fathers, and both of them are, as you see, Black men and fathers, single or single. You can find that out yourself by following them on their pages. I was going to double back to a point you said, Roger, but both you and Rick are probably, and I won't know from your 20s, Roger, but you are probably in great shape. I know Rick has worked hard to be in great shape, so you're probably in great shape in your 50s. So this question I'm asking is around, and I know Rick is a pastor, and I will honor that, and I don't want your church members coming after me. So would you say your thoughts and your thoughts around sex have changed in your 50s versus your 40s? What is different around your thoughts about sex, love, intimacy in your 50s than it might have been in your 40s or 30s?
Intimacy is wide open. I mean, it used to be narrowly defined physically. To me, let's go on a trip together. Let's find some bonding areas that we can bond in, things that that I did in my world that you can come in, and things you do in your world I can come in, and we can bridge the gap. That's, you know, the intimacy for me now. The physical it is what it is. That's how God made men and women. It is what it is.
Are your thoughts different about it? Do you and what I'm asking is, are you Are you more or less open, more or less? What are your thoughts about it?
You have to be a little bit specific.
Um, has any of your thinking on sex changed? You know, when I was in my 30s, there are things I might have thought about that I don't think about in my 50s. There might have been in my 30s.
Maybe telling too well.
There might have been in my 30s. I went to a concert in Indiana and came back with a baby. I didn't, but I'm saying. In my 50s, I don't think I would do that if that were something that I would do.
No,
so my thoughts about sex has changed. If I'm going to be in a sexual relationship, it's going to be probably a longer term commitment. That's going to be my hope. Maybe not in my 30s. I might not have thought that. So I'm just wondering, have your thoughts around sex change? Maybe not delving too much more into that, but you know, respecting the preacher here.
I think that as a 50-year-old versus a 40 or 30-year-old is more mental than just physical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just leave it
okay.
there.
So it's more mental. You're probably moving. Yes, it's more mental. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Roger, you were shaking your head. So
I agree.
What you're saying about the broad intimacy.
Those things I was telling you about, the things that make women attractive, the little things, those are the things you broaden as you get older, that you appreciate more. Mm-hmm. You know, so I think I focus more on that now than I did with my 20s and my 30s, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And we've got some folks that have joined us. We're talking to Rick Cranford and Roger Williams about getting into the mind of Black men and fathers. I hope you will click, share, and tag some folks. It's a great discussion, and I'm going to round it out with a few more questions. Sonia Brayman has joined us. Tim Smith, Jan Holmes Boyd, thank you so much. Darren Williams, thank you so much. Join Darren Williams right here on this platform tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time for Love and the Scriptures. 30 minutes of love in the scriptures. If you're interested in knowing what the scriptures have to say about love, join Darren tomorrow. And thanks for dropping by. We're talking about attitudes that might change as you age. Like I said, Ricky hasn't really been on a health journey, and Roger too. Both of you have, worked out. Roger running marathons, all of these things, very physical, very active. How important is that for you? Would that be for you from a compatibility standpoint for a mate to be very active?
Well, for me, is very important because I'm, even though I'm 55 in age, I'm 35 in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel 35 in your body?
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. I would say yes. Yeah, I have my days where 55 kicks in, but for the most part, I have to remind myself that I'm 55. I like working out. I like traveling. I'm very active and always on the go. So yeah, I would have to go with the 35 in my head.
Okay.
Yes, it's very important. Also, I have to second that. I think both of my parents passed away young, and from preventable illnesses and sicknesses. So I'm making that a number one priority in my life to be healthy. And the only way I can do that in a relationship is if that person also has a leading to be healthy as well.
Okay. If you had one do-over wish, how would you use it?
To do over from my younger years. Is that what you're saying?
Any one wish that you could use to do any one thing over, how would you use that wish?
I would not depend on people I wouldn't be so codependent in relationships and so codependent on people. I would be more self-sufficient. I found out people should add to your happiness and who you are, and not so much depend on people to be there and help you be who you're supposed to be.
Okay. All right. Roger, what about you?
Hmm. I probably would have opted to, if I had to do it over again, I would have taken life as serious as I did.
Okay.
I think I took life really serious, and I missed out on a lot. I think I probably would have uh, accepted people as they are, particularly in my childhood, growing up, my family and friends. Um, I would have definitely lived a little different way of handling my close relationships.
Okay. All right. And what is your greatest accomplishment? What would you say is your greatest accomplishment? And then what was your greatest failure? And what is your biggest fear?
My greatest accomplishment, I don't think I've accomplished it yet, but if I had to pick one, it would be my business.
Okay.
Uh, my
Tell us a
great,
little bit about your business.
well, it started off as something that I was doing for my wife. My wife, she had hair issues, and we would go to different affairs, different church affairs. I would have preaching engagements and wearing the weaves and all that back then. And so that was for the older people. So she didn't want to do that. And so we decided to try the hat thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when she picked out a hat that she liked, it was a Jack McConnell. It cost like $600 way back then. That was a lot of money with 4 children. And so
Mm-hmm.
I studied the hat, and I figured I could figure out how to do these myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest is history.
Mm-hmm.
I was working for Comerica in the corporate office,
Mm-hmm.
and I had Tuesdays off, and I decided that I needed a hobby or something to do on those Tuesdays, and so I decided to try to make a hat. And long story short, she wore the hat, the first hat that I made her on Easter, and somebody bought it from her for $135. And so I kept going. Um, and it's became a lucrative business to this day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to opening up a store
Wow.
after the COVID thing is kind of, you
Okay.
know, died down or whatever it's going to do. And so I'm that. Um, and so, I have a lot of high profile customers that I enjoy servicing and all of that. And so it's been a blessing for me. And so that would be one of my greatest accomplishments. My greatest failure would probably be marriage.
Okay.
The whole divorce thing. It was heartbreaking and heart wrenching and all of the above. It was, when you get a divorce, it's like a death.
Mhm.
It's like it's a death. My greatest what
Biggest
was
fear.
my biggest fear is living life without God.
Hmm.
Yeah, living life without God's guidance and without His Spirit leading me and directing me and helping me and empowering me.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Roger, what would you say is your greatest accomplishment?
I thought about originally some stuff physical, like getting my certification, but I think probably my greatest accomplishment was overcoming divorce, overcoming the passing of a lot of close family members, dealing with my own um, issues of trying to drive to be the authentic me, as you will, and becoming at a point now in my life where I can appreciate the people that I have in my life, and not only appreciate that, but I can find myself giving as much as I've received from the people that love me and care. So I can give just as much to them back to them as they've given to me.
Hmm.
Um, my greatest failure probably would be my divorce as well. Um, the way it ended, um, I think was probably the biggest thing that I can think of as a major failure. Biggest fear would probably be not being able to enjoy the life God has purpose for me to enjoy.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
that's my biggest fear,
Hmm.
and that may include marriage, getting married again. But I think for me to say that, that's saying a lot. So
It is saying a lot.
So I think my biggest fear is not getting to enjoy what he has intended for me on this earth.
Okay. And, all of these responses are so fantastic, because I believe that, a lot of the inbox discussions that I have, believe it or not, as Love and Stuff started a long time ago, it was 7 women and 17 men, which I thought was interesting. It was more men talking about, hey, I'm in my 30s, 40s, and 50s, and marriage is not an option because there are no options out there. And I thought, well, that's what women are saying. Women are saying there's not enough men to go around. But these men were saying, my fear is of dying alone, or being alone, or not accomplishing the things, like you said, Roger, that God would have for me. And Ricky, you said being God led. But I want to be able to have that with somebody. Do you see yourself being in another marriage? I think Roger alluded to that. Rick, what are you all thinking about? Do you have any concerns about having this wonderful life and not having somebody to share it with?
Well, I am not right now. I don't have that. If the right person came along, then I'm open to it.
Okay.
I like my freedom right now. I'm okay with being single for right now. I
Okay.
think as I progress in age, I might want a companion more. I'm like I said, I'm not close to it. I like the fact that I can go. I keep a backpack. And so I can grab my bag, jump in my Corvette, and drive to Chicago and stay as long as I want and not have to answer to anybody. I love that. And
Okay.
so
And ladies, you heard him say he got a Corvette. Did you hear that, ladies? Okay. We put that out there. I didn't say it. You said it. I'm just repeating what you
so
said.
yeah, I love driving in my Corvette. I love traveling. I love being spontaneous. I like the freedom, and so I like buying whatever I want, and being able to go and date and do whatever I want to do. I like all that right
Okay.
now.
And Roger, you like to travel too, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
So,
true.
is marriage? I know travel is on the calendar. Just putting that out there. Travel is
Yeah,
on.
I'm trying to go to Jamaica. I need a partner to go to Jamaica with me for this.
So I wanted to. I wasn't going to put that out there unless you. So you open the door. So basically, you're going to be traveling soon,
Yeah,
right?
I'm
Does
going
somebody need a passport to go to Jamaica?
You do.
Okay.
You do need a
And
passport.
so they probably need the express passport if they're trying to go to Jamaica with you.
The trip is in August. A close childhood friend of mine is taking his wife to Jamaica for her birthday, and he invited me. But I found out it was like a couple thing. That's it's couple set up.
Mhm.
So originally, I was going to go, and they told me I had to have I guess Sandals is a couple's resort. I guess that's what it is. It's what I was told. So, yeah, just scrambling to find somebody that wanted to go to Jamaica. So,
and what would you want in a travel partner? I'm going to ask you both. I know I'm going over my time, but I'm going to ask you both. I know Rick just jumps in the Corvette, but do you want somebody who can be in the car with you, Rick, and wear one of your fabulous hats and let the hair blow in the wind? What do you all look for in a travel partner?
Openness. Just open to do.
What does that mean?
That means if you want to do a road trip, you want to do a small trip, you want to do a long trip, you want to do an in-state trip, it's ways to make getting away possible. Because again, it's really not about the environment as much as the companionship. I'm saying, the friendship. That's the most important part.
Well, I don't know. Jamaica sounds pretty inviting an environment, but okay. Rick, what do you look for in a travel companion?
I look for someone that is fun, someone that is spontaneous, someone who is active, someone that has conversation, someone that likes to explore. Yeah.
So are you going skydiving? Is that kind of exploring? Are you going what do they call it? Not snowboarding. What do they call it? Waterboarding?
Jet skiing.
Jet skiing. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, I love to go jet skiing.
Okay. Tell me some of the other things you all love to do while traveling, because you said active. What does that mean? We just getting up and working out?
Well, yeah, I like to get up early in the morning and work out. I like to go sit on the beach and watch the sun arise. I like going to breakfast. I like going to plays. I like going to different events. I like going sightseeing to the museums, all kind of stuff. You know,
Okay.
when I go out of town, it's not to rest. I rest at home.
Got it. And Roger, anything to add to that? Is it hiking?
It's
Is
the
it
same thing.
biking?
You know what? I'm active, but everything Pastor Cranford said is pretty much ditto for me. I enjoy anything as long as they're open and enjoy learning and doing new things. It's cool with me.
And should they be prepared to pay their own way or?
No.
You don't have to pay your own way, but it would be nice if you had some money.
Okay. Okay. So be able to travel and be able to enjoy not having to rely on the other person.
Exactly.
Be able to, just be able to flow with it. Okay. I'm going back to one other point before I let you go, because you both talked about your divorce. I'm not delving as much into the detail, but there are people on the periphery and around the Love and Stuff community who are contending with the dissolution of their marriage, or thinking about it, or have dealt with it. And you described it as a death. You described it as, terrible to go through. What advice or great lessons have you learned, while each, situation is going to be unique? What's some advice that you've learned from it that you would tell to somebody who might be at that same point?
Oh, let Mr. Rogers go.
Well, I'm gonna, the situation. I'll just say a little bit about my divorce. My ex had some it was some childhood trauma that came out. I realistically was unprepared for that, and I didn't know as a husband how to meet your mate where she was in that with that type of issue. I didn't know. I really didn't. I regret that, but I prayed. The whole. I did everything I could do to be as godly as possible to help, but it just didn't work out that way. It became very toxic. I do believe that you can pray for your spouse, and you should pray for your spouse and be an example of love for them. Sometimes, and I'll say it like this. It really bothered me that the marriage failed, because you want everything to be successful, and you want to be successful, and you don't want to be a statistic. But I remember my mother said this one time to me about a tragedy we had in our family, and she was talking about God and God's will. She said, God has a divine will. He created the world in 7 days, and he willed that man would have a wife and rule the world. But then he has a permissive will also, where he permits things to happen. And I had to learn during my little crisis that although that wasn't what I would have liked to see happen to my marriage, it happened. And I had to get to a point where I accepted that. I accepted God's will with that. I prayed as much as I can. I did everything I could do, and all you should do is do everything you can do, counseling included. But if it gets to the point where, particularly if it becomes physically endangering, if it becomes emotionally endangering, sometimes the best thing is to allow things to go separate ways. It doesn't mean you can't come back together, but for the safety of your sanctity, if you have kids involved, their sanctity as well, you got to do what's best for the family unit. And I had to learn that. I really did. It took me some years to get over that. And I accepted that, So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. And I think we lost Rick Cranford. He disappeared. We're going to just tell you how you can help us for this Father's Day. We'll be right back after this. We're headed toward Father's Day, and we need your help to celebrate. Hi, I'm Marcus Holmes, the love activist and the founder of the Love and Stuff community. And our objectives for Father's Day are to increase the amount of love and recognition in the world for fathers, and then to inspire conversations and connections of fathers and their children. We need you to send your 3 to 5 minute amazing video about your amazing dad to the Love and Stuff inbox or to mgrmarcus@hrpassion.com. We will feature your video in a special presentation of Love and Stuff on Father's Day, June 19th. You know, there's so much negativity in our world around men and fathers. Will you lend your stories and your voices to Love and Stuff that we might trumpet them together to herald the accomplishments, the personhood, the greatness and legacy of fathers? They are so worthy, so deserving of our honor, recognition, and praise. So I'll be checking the Love and Stuff inbox as well as the email inbox for your wonderful videos. Thank you in advance for helping to make this Father's presentation unlike any other before it. We're counting on you and your 3 to 5 minute videos of your amazing dads to be included in Sundays. We have a few, and we can certainly use a few more, because we believe that Black men and fathers particularly should be heralded and trumpeted. And in that regard, Roger, I think you're doing amazing job in staying connected to Alan. And I'm so glad that you're reconnecting with your girls as well. Father's Day doesn't get the luster or shine, though, like Mother's Day. Now, I have to say, there's nobody like Mama, but there's nobody like Dad. But we do know, particularly across the African diaspora, that there are situations where the father is not present. It doesn't mean that he doesn't deserve to be honored necessarily. And I think you said in your journey later on in life, you had to contend with your relationship with your father. What would you say to fathers and sons that don't have the closeness that you have with Alan? How did you get to that place in having closeness, and what would you advise fathers to do with their sons or daughters?
As a father, you're going to have to put aside whatever the issue is.
Or daughters.
As a father, you're going to have to put aside.
Rick, I think you got a second device probably going, and that's what we're hearing. Or daughters.
As a father, you're going to have to put aside.
I think you got a second device probably. Actually, is that you, Roger? You got a second device?
I don't know. Maybe I'll do this.
Hold on one second.
That was
gone
me.
now. Okay.
That's
all right. And I'm glad you made it back. Thank you, sir. So, yep, Ricky, center yourself a little bit more. There you go. Because I want, since you're driving that Corvette, I want everybody to see you so that they can decide whether or not they're going to shoot their shot. Okay. Roger, you were saying this closeness that you have with Alan. Now I can't hear you. Did you?
Muted myself. That's what I was trying to do.
Yeah, don't do that.
Okay. All right. I was going to say, someone as a father, you got to put your ego, pride aside. You got to put all that aside, and you got to sacrifice and basically say, I got to take this for the love of my son, for the love of my daughters, my family. You have to set that tone. You have to set it, and you have to be the one that's willing to step across and work that thing out. You have to. You have to do that. So my advice to fathers is, don't be afraid of going on the other side and meeting someone where they are. Meet them where they are.
Yeah, very, very proud of that work that you are doing with your children. And Ricky, what advice would you give fathers or sons about reconnecting with their father? Because, everyone doesn't have that good relationship with their dad. And I know you have your children, and you also mentor young men. I've seen some outstanding young men that have come out of your ministry, and it looks like you're doing a great job in helping to mentor them. What would you say to sons and fathers that need to be connected to reconnect? And how do they get past that? Hey, dad wasn't there for me, or hey, he's not present for me. How do they reconnect?
Definitely go the extra mile to reach out and keep in touch. Get past the old, get past your emotions and see the need. Um, and work past your differences, communicate and love beyond misunderstanding.
Mhm, mhm. Well, Roger, looked like you wanted to add something. Did
No,
you want?
I didn't. I was just agreeing.
All right. I want to thank you both. If you want to have some closing statements on fatherhood or Black manhood, especially, I'd love to hear those. But I want to thank you both for your time. It's been a little longer. It's kind of a late night edition, which I love. But uh, I think it's important in the month of June, which is Black Music Month, and it's also Juneteenth now. People are starting to be awakened to Juneteenth, even though it's not brand new. But it's also Father's Day, and I think fathers get a bad rap. Now, I'm not saying every father is amazing, nor has every mother been amazing, nor has every grandmother or grandfather, but fathers get a bad rap and Black men get a bad rap. And so I wanted to show some Black men who are doing amazing things in their respective fields, who have um, been successful in moving past the grief of divorce, and who have children, some of them young adults who are living their lives, starting to raise their own families and getting married, all those kind of things. Because I think it's important that we show that aspect, because if we don't affirm and validate men and fathers, we can't expect them to walk into that confidence and walk in healthy relationships, I think. And so I've been very appreciative of the fellas that I asked to join us, that you two were available. I know everybody is busy, and I appreciate you taking time out to be with us tonight. So I want to know, if you'll look in the camera and say something to a father or a son that kind of encourages them in a month where it's not going to be the big dinner maybe for them like it was for Mother's Day. And not that it has to be a comparison, but I think that being a Black man in this world today, especially in America, and being gainfully employed or pursuing your passion, running your business, being a solopreneur or multiple businesses, being successful in ministry, successful in education, rearing children at various stages should be celebrated. And so I'd like to hear from each of you before we go to a close.
Well, I do think that, Mother's Day is a little bit more celebrated because mothers are nurturers.
Mhm.
They're loving, they're nurturing, they're caring, they're attentive to details. Not saying that fathers aren't, but we're more of disciplinarians. We're more of the man that keeps the order in the family and keeps structure and keep everyone in line, and that's not as popular as the nurturer.
Mhm.
Um, my grandfather and my fathers were unmoved about not being celebrated.
Mhm.
They knew that they had a job to do, and they were okay with not being celebrated, and they were strong. And so, if people, I think that people need to consider the job that we have to do as Black men, and
Mhm.
make it more celebrated. But
Mhm.
if not, be strong and know your job and know your position and celebrate yourself
Mhm.
and be strong.
Okay. All right. And Roger Williams.
I agree with the last part of Pastor say. I don't, I've accepted the fact that Black men, fathers, are not celebrated. And those that do hold the standard, the mantle, we're one of the few, because they criticize and ostracize and Black men at all times. So I've accepted the fact that you're not going to get a pat on the back. You do what you have to do, as Pastor Cranford alluded to, and you do it because you know that that's your role. You know that the impact, particularly in these trying times, a country in a disarray, inflation, all the stuff we're dealing with, um, just be a calming voice to the when things get kind of dark and gloomy. Like I tell my son, there's always going to be a tomorrow, but you need to plan and prepare for these 7 years of famine when there's another 7 years of plenty, when everything is going well. So don't get like your voice doesn't count. It does count. You know, Black men play a crucial role in our families, and you know, I'm celebrating it. If no one else celebrated, I am.
Wonderful. Rick Cranford, Roger Williams, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're shining examples of Black fatherhood and Black manhood. And I hope that the brothers and sisters that watch this will do more than get in your inbox, but that they will definitely help us to celebrate Black men in this month. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir, for having us.
Thank you for having me, and I enjoyed myself.
Great. Two outstanding Black men, and I wanted to highlight them along with some others who are doing outstanding work in their communities, in their families. And why should we be showing that? Because the world needs to see that, and other men and boys, young adults need to see that as well, that there are men and fathers that are worthy of celebration. I don't think either of them would tell you that they are perfect men, or either of them would tell you that they've not, and some of they shared tonight that they've had missteps and mistakes, but they are real men, and they are men who should be celebrated. And I'm hoping that if just one person decides to pick up the phone and call your father or your grandfather or your uncle, if one person decides to roll over to your husband and say, your boyfriend, and say, you're doing a great job. If one person decides to celebrate someone in their life that's worthy of celebration, it can make a difference in increasing the amount of love and recognition in the world this month. And that's what our objective is. One of our objectives for Father's Day this month. And then the second is to create a space where fathers and their children can have conversations and connections so that we can increase the amount of love in the community. And you can simply help us to do that by re-engaging, reconnecting, reconciling relationships. It doesn't mean necessarily that it's going to be easy, but it's something to do. As we close, I want to remind you that you can join Darren Williams at Love and the Scriptures tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you got questions about what does the scripture say about this, you should join us for 30 minutes. And Darren is talking about, last week you talked about an opening to an intelligent love. If you want to find out what that is, he gave us a great teaser leading us into this week's study. I will see you at that same time. And go to the Love and Stuff page and click the notification button. And while you're there, click to join the group inside of Love and Stuff. If you want to get on a self-care journey, we're halfway into the year, but it's not too late for you to join us. And then at the end of the year, we will have an event in January or at the beginning of next year where we'll all come together and we will celebrate having pursued a best self in 2022. I want to close and tell you, as I started to talk about at the outset, that a lot of things that we learn from fathers and dads, some of them are things that they say, right? I can recall my dad saying, a man that doesn't work doesn't eat. I can recall him saying, be neat and clean because you're a homes. And he had an expletive that he put in that statement, wash your, I'm going to say tail, and be clean because you're a homes. That name meant something to him. He would often say, you're not going to skip school, even though I did. You're not going to cut up in school, even though I did. Not with all these taxes I'm paying for you to go to school. He made it a responsibility for his investment in an established home. My return on that investment was a good education, and that was always important to him. He also said many other fun phrases that I hope to share with you throughout the month. Some of them I think might have a little bit of extra language in them that we'll censor. But much of what I learned is what he didn't say, but what he did. He went to work every day. He was a person who at points worked 2 jobs. And he went to work smelling good and came home whistling. Now, that might not mean much to you, but as a kid, it taught me that work wasn't a bad place if he came back whistling. And it must be a place that you had to get ready for because he believed in being clean shaven and smelling good. Old Spice back in those days. Of course, it was Old Spice mixed with Lucky Strikes, but God bless his memory. But he believed in going to work, and he believed in being on time. And he would be upset if we were late going anywhere. He believed that in order to be on time, you needed to be there 10 minutes before in your seat. And he once told me, because I was notoriously late when I was younger for a concert that I had planned, he said, how are you asking God to meet you at 7 and you gonna get there at 7:15? No, you don't ask the Lord to do something and you don't go on time. He was very intentional about being on time. And those things, many of them that he did, spoke more to me than the things that he said. And so I try to model out some of those things for Autumn. One of the things I don't model out, I'll be honest, he was a person who awakened at the crack of dawn, before dawn, I say. 4:30, 5 o'clock. I'm not a 4:30, 5 o'clock riser. If I am awakened at that time, I think it means Jesus is calling me to prayer. But my dad would awaken, and the first thing he would do was get his black coffee, get him some coffee, and probably make some bacon. Then he'd go to his garden and go to his yard and clean the house. And on Saturday, he said, get out of that bed. You get up the same time every day, whether you're going to work or not. Ain't nothing in that bed but the hours of sleep you left. It's time to get out of that bed. And those were things that he did every day. It's from those routines that I think I gleaned some work ethic, that I've stored all of this sick time in my PTO banks because I go to work. And I'm sure it's because of the things that I learned from Herbert Holmes. Many of the things we learn from our fathers are just from watching them. And some of the things that we learned and have to work through are also from watching them. Whether you're working through something or celebrating the things that you have modeled out, your father is worthy of honor, celebration, and praise. Maybe not perfect. I certainly didn't have a perfect father, and I'm certainly not a perfect son, and certainly not a perfect father. But he's certainly worthy to be praised for the provider and person that he was. And if gifts can be handed down, boy, I'm thankful for his singing. It's been a great love and stuff. It's been a little bit longer than we typically do, but I wanted to give the opportunity for you to see some outstanding Black brothers who are just living their lives and crushing the game in living their lives, who enjoy travel and who enjoy intimacy and who enjoy good things and good people, who enjoy walking with God and worshiping, and who enjoy laughter and fun. And I think from that, we can all glean that it's okay to live a life that pleases God and pleases you. And that when you do that, that you make more room for blessings in your life and you make more models for your children and those that look up to you to have footsteps to walk in. I'm Marcus Holmes, and this is Love and Stuff Community, and we're about increasing the amount of love in the world. We'd love for you to be a regular part of our community. Join us next Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, our regular time. and we're going to have a talk on the love of justice. And we are excited that we'll begin debuting our work on Lift Every Voice and Vote. There are some amazing candidates and some amazingly committed people to public service that you should be considering as we're going into important election cycles. And we cannot gain ground in a time of pandemic and potential recession without strategically placing the right people in positions. And so we want you, as much as you have a love for people and a love for self and a love for fathers, we want you to have a love for justice. This is Love and Stuff, and we invite you to join us. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you soon in these many streets. Thank you so much for joining us.